Deontay Wilder. Is he the hardest puncher in boxing history? Is his power the stuff of legend? Or is it something intended to disguise or draw attention away from an often embarrassing or unpleasant issue, which is the very definition of smoke and mirrors? Let's examine Deontay LaShawn Wilder's resume of 42 wins, 41 wins by way of knockout, 1 loss by way of KO, and 1 draw. We will review his resume and see if those 41 knockouts are as impressive as some people would like for you to believe. As you can see, Deontay Wilder's first fight was against a man named Ethan Cox. His record, 2 wins, 8 defeats, 5 of those defeats coming by way of knockout, and 2 draws. When he fought Deontay Wilder, he had been knocked out prior by a man named Ashanti Jordan. Deontay Wilder knocked him out. But if you examine his resume, you would see that he went on to be knocked out by Latif Coyote and several other fighters. This was definitely a man who was thrown in the ring to be a resume booster for fighters. And as you can see, his career ended with him having a total of 12 fights and only 2 victories. And he was knocked out 5 times. He has a KO ratio of under 10% at 8.33%, rounded off to 8%. This was Deontay Wilder's first knockout. Are you impressed?
I znowu długi lewy prosty. I będzie polował Wilder na prawy, jeszcze raz, no już teraz koniec pojedynku, tak. To był cios, po którym Cox już nie ma ochoty się podnieść, bo ten prawy zakończył ten pojedynek.
No, ma brutalną siłę Wilder. Duży talent, był blisko medalu na Igrzyskach Olimpijskich w Pekinie. No, tam odniósł 2 zwycięstwa, przegrał dopiero w starciu o medal. No, ale siłę ma chłopak naprawdę potężną. Popatrzmy jeszcze raz, tylko że no, powiedzmy sobie szczerze, na razie technicznie jest prymitywny. Dużo.
Deontay Wilder's second fight was against a man named Shannon Gray. Shannon Gray had 2 professional bouts in his entire career. One was against Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder knocked Shannon Gray out in the first round. Shannon Gray won a total of 5 rounds professionally and had a 0% KO ratio. When people say you're fighting taxi drivers, you're fighting janitors, you're fighting bums, this is the definition of what they're talking about. No disrespect to Shannon Gray, who was clearly a man fighting to support his family, but Shannon Gray was never a man fighting to become heavyweight champion. Shannon Gray was never a man who was fighting to become a contender. He was someone who took a fight to make money, and it shows in the fact that he only had 2 fights and he never fought again. Congratulations, Deontay Wilder. You knocked out Shannon Gray. But is that impressive? Deontay Wilder's third fight was against a man named Richard Green Jr. Richard Green Jr. had 5 fights, won 1 of those fights, and lost 4. All 4 defeats were by way of knockout. He lost a TKO fight to Jason Massey before he fought Deontay Wilder. When he fought Deontay Wilder didn't knock him out per se. It was a referee technical decision. The fight was stopped in between rounds. This would be a pattern with Richard Green Jr. He would take the fights and then quit in the middle of the rounds. As he did with Deontay Wilder, he did the same thing with Brian Cook, and he did the same thing with David Martin. That's why if you look at his resume, you would see what is labeled as a RTD, referee technical decision. It's when the fighter quits in between rounds. So why would a man quit in between rounds 3 times? This is someone who took the fight for money. Again, what people mean when they say you're fighting taxi drivers, janitors, and bums. No disrespect to Richard Green Jr. There's no doubt he needed the money, and there's no doubt he stepped in the ring and put himself and his health at risk to take that money. But he was never on a level playing field. He knew he never had a chance to win. I'd give his heart a 100. But unfortunately, he didn't have the skills to protect himself. Was this knockout impressive? You be the judge. There was no footage that I could find to show you clips of this knockout. But you have the stats, you have the information. You judge for yourself. Deontay Wilder's fourth victory would come against a man named Joseph Raybourn. Joseph Raybourn had 44 professional fights. Out of those 44 professional fights, he won 11. 3 of those 11 victories were by way of knockout. He lost 31 fights. Out of those 31 fights that he lost, 14 of them he lost by KO. And he had 1 draw. Deontay Wilder knocked out Joseph Raybourn, but he certainly wasn't the first. The first was Rodney Wallace. Then came Joe Hanks. Then came Jesse Turner. Then came Tor Hamer. Then came Seth Mitchell. And after all those guys knocked out Joseph Raybourn, Deontay Wilder said, well, let me join in on the fun. But of course, Joseph Raybourn's knockouts didn't start with Deontay Wilder, and they didn't end with Deontay Wilder. Several people went on to knock him out after that. He was knocked out a total of 14 times. Now, some people say the hardest puncher in boxing history. Well, if so many people knocked this man out, is that really unique? He was knocked out before and after Wilder. You have to question, why even throw him in the ring with this man? Joseph Raybourn had the courage to step in the ring, even after being knocked out several times. So I respect him. But I have to say, his skills were not world class.
Joseph Raybourn, 30 years old, 6'3", 260 pounds, took this fight on short notice, and based on his past performances, Teddy, many expect him to last only a short time.
I would say that that's a pretty good bet. If there was a betting window, I might go up there and put a little wager in. Basically, the promoter brought him in here for 2 reasons. Number one, to lose to Wilder, give Wilder his 4th win on television. And number 2, to be knocked out by Wilder, so Wilder becomes 4-0 with 4 knockouts on television. We'll see whether or not Raybourn goes along with that script. He leans forward to his right. He dips down to his opponent's height, and there's the right hand, though. There's the eraser that makes up for all those mistakes.
A big, smooth right hand from Wilder scores the first knockdown of the night.
Raybourn has been knocked out 5 times. I'm betting it's going to become 6.
Knocked out in the first round in his most recent fight against Seth Mitchell back on March 7th.
Correct. He's going to move up this boxing ladder, and that's where he leans forward when he jabs. But right now,
that was a left hook and a short right hand that puts Raybourn down for the 2nd time, using the unified rules, so there is no 3 knockdown rule.
You okay? Back.
Still over a minute to go here in round 1.
You know, Wilder fought 2 times last month, and you could see why. When you're fighting these kind of opponents, you could fight 2 times a month. Matter of fact, I would ask the question, why didn't they fight 4 times?
Exactly. See go of it against this short notice opponent. How did he stand up to that right hand? He didn't stand up to that one. And look at the way Raybourn is laid out with his leg bent back, and this fight is over. Deontay Wilder, as expected, a first-round knockout.
The trainer of Wilder, Mark Whelan, and he was going over what he has to correct. He knows that this knockout was meant to be a long time ago, just to pad the record. He was making sure that he was doing a little teaching.
Deontay Wilder's 5th victory came against a man named Charles Brown. Charles Brown had 24 professional bouts, 6 wins, 3 of those wins by way of knockout. He also suffered 16 defeats. 8 of those defeats were by way of knockout. He had a KO percentage of 12.5. We'll round it to 13%. Deontay Wilder wasn't the first person to knock him out, but Deontay Wilder made sure he was the last. He was knocked out by several fighters before Deontay Wilder stepped in the ring with him. Some of note, James Thompson. I refuse to butcher this man's name, so I'll just move on to Devin Vargas. Bermain Stavern. And after all those fellas knocked out, Charles Brown, Deontay Wilder said, "Let me join in on the fun." I mean, gosh, good grief. He might as well have knocked out Charlie Brown himself. There's no footage of this fight, probably for good reason. But after reviewing these stats, do you consider this a quality win? Does it say something about your punching power when you knock out a man who's been knocked out 8 times? Before you? And after you? I mean, this man was knocked out several times. Deontay Wilder got him at the tail end of his career, and he never fought again. Decisions. Are you impressed? For his 6th professional fight, Deontay Wilder fought Kelsey Arnold. Kelsey Arnold had 15 professional bouts, 4 wins, one of those wins coming by way of knockout. He suffered 9 defeats. 7 of those defeats came in the form of KO, and he had 2 draws. When Kelsey Arnold fought Deontay Wilder, he was 1 victory, 2 defeats, and 2 draws. Deontay Wilder stepped in the ring that night. He KO'd him. He knocked out Kelsey Arnold, but he wasn't the first. That honor goes to Andres Taylor. He's the first one who knocked him out. Then Deontay Wilder knocked him out. Then Ahmad Ali knocked him out. Then David Long knocked him out. Then Lionel Davis knocked him out. And Andy Ruiz said, "Hey man, I need some of that action." And he knocked him out as well. Eventually, Kelsey Arnold would retire after he was knocked out by Alexander Flores. But does Deontay Wilder prove anything by knocking out an opponent of this caliber? Do you give him credit for that? Are you impressed?
Arnold, who has not won a fight in his last 3 and who has been knocked out in his career, that's going to tell a little bit more. Wilder 5-0, 5 knockouts. Yes, he has power and it's all in the right hand. But yes, they have given him opponents who stand there and just wait to get hit so far in his career.
He's a right hand early on.
You do not lean on the right side if you don't want to get hit with right hands. He leans on the right side. That is in the alleyway of the right hand. And behind the ear, the right hand gets delivered and Arnold tumbles forward, as 5 fighters before Arnold have done in the young career of Wilder. Look, I've said it before. This doesn't prove anything. It proves that he's got a good right hand, and it proves that his management are being very careful with who they put him in with.
In his 7th professional fight, Deontay Wilder faced Travis Allen. For his career, Travis Allen had 8 professional fights. He won 3 of those fights. All 3 wins came by way of knockout. He suffered 5 defeats. Out of those 5 defeats, he was knocked out 3 times. Deontay Wilder's one of the men who knocked him out, but he wasn't the first. That honor goes to Jesse Shoemaker. Then he was knocked out by Jason Redman, and we all know Deontay Wilder. He can't stand to be left out of the fun. To quote a great philosopher, some people may know him as a rapper. His name is Cameron. He said, "And when it comes to Jimmy, my name is Me Too. Because when he got cash, I was like Me Too. And when he got, I was like Me Too." Every time someone gets a knockout, Deontay Wilder feels like Me Too. Hashtag. And that is why Deontay Wilder stepped in the ring and knocked out Travis Allen. After that, Travis Allen never boxed again. He finished his career with 8 fights, 3 wins, 5 defeats. Does that sound like quality? Does that sound impressive? Is it rare and unique to knock someone out after it's already been done multiple times? Are you impressed?
So with another look for us at the Olympic bronze medalist from Alabama, Deontay Wilder faces Travis Allen. It is the 7th fight of Wilder's career. Travis Allen, 30 years old, 6'2", 228, a 3-4 record since February of 2006. He has had only 2 fights, totaling 6 rounds. 2 times already this year. First in Chicago in April against the overmatched Joe Raybourn, a first-round knockout. Then here in Tucson in June, quickly ridding the ring of Kelsey Arnold. We asked.
Right now, Wilder's just about power in his right hand and about fighting soft opponents that he can get rid of with that power in the right hand. Wilder, quite honestly, has not learned how to fight yet. He's very crude, very raw.
Type from St. Joseph, Missouri, the same town that produced the victim of our opening bout tonight, Travis Hartman, and this fight is taking on the same exact form of that complete mismatch that we opened up this TV card
That's
with.
what these fights are.
These first two fights are atrocious.
Yeah, Allen's been knocked out 2 times in his last 3, soon to be 3 times in his last 4. All of Allen's fights have been in Missouri and Oklahoma, usually easy places to build records, and it is. Except in this case, someone else was building their records at Allen's expense. They were using Allen to build their own record.
There's a right hand from Wilder.
Allen turning southpaw. Doesn't matter which way he turns. The outcome is going to be the same.
There's your second knockdown, a minute 20 into the fight. By the way, there is a 3 knockdown rule in effect, so
I think
if he does rise, this fight will end soon.
Yeah,
Fight's over.
This is the 6th fight in the last 5 months for Wilder. Not bad. I'm thinking he could get at least 20 with these kind of opponents he's been fighting. Maybe 2 every week. I mean, again, I have to ask the question. I know the audience out there sometimes says, well, Teddy's being a little harsh. I don't think I'm being harsh. I'm being honest. I'm being fair. I know that Wilder didn't have quite as much amateur experience as some of the other prospects that are coming from the Olympic team and coming from the amateur programs, but still enough experience, just like our last fight, Thurman, enough experience to fight better opposition than this. What are you accomplishing? I know you're building the record. You're not fooling anybody. People are seeing that these are fights that are won in the dressing room, one when the contract was signed, one before you step in the ring. So what are you accomplishing? You can see Wilder trying to fight tall. He's looking for that right hand. Didn't even look like a real clean shot again, honestly, but Allen went down for the 3rd time in his last 4. And again, the outcome was already dictated when this fight was made. None of those punches landed cleanly.